Welcome to the thehodgypodgypod. I'm your host, Lauren Strati, and today is another one of our Menagerie Mondays. Monday, fun day. Yes, I said it again, and I will probably say it on multiple Mondays because I want Mondays with me and you to be fun. So let's try and make it fun. We are going to try and make it fun today by going back in time and talking about music videos from the 80s. They were amazing, mainly because, well, going back and watching some of them, they don't seem so amazing. They actually made me kind of nauseous. But when when you were younger, watching them for the first time, with technology being what it was back then, they were amazing. So we are going to talk about some of them today. Not all of them, because that list is huge. I had no idea, per usual. I feel like I should get used to that. But when I started to do my research for music videos, all of these different music videos came flooding back to me, and I thought, oh man, how am I going to do this episode and not have it be several days long? So I decided to just break it up into a series where we will do some 80s music videos this week. Next week we'll do 90s. Then the week after we'll do 2000s. And then we'll get into our Christmas stuff. And down the road we'll do another series like this, again talking about more music from the 80s and more music videos from then as well, because I was trying to cram everything into this one episode and it was really stressing me out. Then I realized that I do plan on doing this podcast for quite some time. So, and it is mine and I can do what I want. And so I decided, let's do a series now, then we can do some later. So that's what we're going to do. So most people, I would hope, know what a music video is. But when we think about music videos, we all tend to, especially those of us that are Gen Xers and millennials, we tend to think of MTV or VH1, mainly MTV though. And we think about that's where we saw all of our music videos growing up. We did have, before MTV came around though, I know the Beatles had some music videos. I think the Monkees did as well. So did Queen, had one for Bohemian Rhapsody in 1975. But there wasn't really any place to air music videos until MTV came around in 1981. So it was August 1st, 1981, MTV launched. And the first words that were ever said on there were, "Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll." And then the music video from the Buggles, "Video Killed the Radio Star," aired. And I checked, it is Buggles, because I was like, is it Bugles? Is it Buggles? Because if you look, you're like, how do you say that? I checked on the internet, it's Buggles. So don't give me a hard time for saying it wrong. I didn't. But that was the first music video that was ever played. And I think we all remember, video, I'm not even going to try and sing it, but that was the very first one to ever be aired on MTV. Then they started obviously expanding what they were playing. They did originally just want to stick with rock music until they realized they didn't have enough rock and roll to play. Then thankfully there were artists like Michael Jackson and Madonna that had plenty of music videos coming out to bring up the popularity of MTV. Michael Jackson, especially with his video for Billie Jean, which I found out a whole bunch of stuff about Billie Jean. But that music video, the video for that song is often credited for breaking the color barrier on MTV. So they were actually, MTV almost got in trouble because they were considered being racist for not playing enough music from Black artists. They're trying to stick with rock, so they had to expand to other countries. But music videos from those countries were being played. Music videos where they were all white men. So they weren't playing videos from Black artists. So, and despite the production value and Michael Jackson's star quality, MTV didn't play the music video for Billie Jean until the song was already number one. It had already hit number one on the charts. So they were actually threatened by the president of Jackson's record label. And so they threatened MTV. He said that he would go public with their stance on race. He said, I said to MTV, I'm pulling everything we have off the air. All our product. I'm not going to give you any more videos. And I'm going to go public and effing tell them about the fact you don't want to play music by a Black guy. So they played it. And it was extremely popular, and it was in heavy rotation for quite a bit of time. So that was a really big deal. Michael Jackson came out with quite a few music videos in 1983 alone that were huge hits. So, but going back to Billie Jean, when you hear the lyrics, Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl that thinks that I'm the one, but the kid's not my son. So there are multiple different versions of who Billie Jean was. So and I don't know what's true, but the song is about a girl who claimed Jackson was the father of her child. Jackson supposedly based it on a woman who used to stalk him, writing him letters about a son she thought was his. He rarely spoke about this woman, but he had a very hard time dealing with this unwanted attention and became more reclusive as a result. The song was his way of expressing his feelings without addressing her directly. That was one version of who Billie Jean might be. Then it says that he doesn't give any more details about the real Billie Jean, but his producer, Quincy Jones, rest in peace, I know he just passed away this week, said that Jackson found the woman one day lounging by his pool with a bathing suit and sunglasses on. And then according to Jones, she accused Jackson of being the father of one of his twins, of her twins. So, not sure how that works. But then there was another theory. Supposedly, Michael Jackson himself said that while the meaning behind the famous story is of an obsessed woman stalking the king of pop, he said that it was actually just more of a character representing the many groupies he and his brother were plagued with over the years. Because if you didn't know, Michael Jackson was part of the Jackson 5. He has been in the limelight. He had been in the limelight since he was very young. I can do a whole entire episode on Michael Jackson alone, which I will probably do because I have always been fascinated with his history, his story, and he's one of my favorite conspiracy theories. So that may be an episode I do down the road, but we will continue on with Billie Jean and all these different things. Who was she? Was she actually real? Was she not? But he said in his 1988 autobiography that Billie Jean there was never a real Billie Jean. The girl in the song was a composite of people, like I said, that his brothers and himself had to deal with over the years. He couldn't understand how these girls could say that they were carrying so much child when it wasn't true. He didn't understand how people could lie like that. But then Jackson's biographer told a different story in his 1991 book, which was, he said that Billie Jean was inspired by real letters the singer received in 1981 from a woman claiming he was the father of her twins. So kind of like a mix mash of different stories here. Despite no reaction from Jackson, the woman continually sent letters before eventually escalating to sending a gun and a murder threat. Talk about a diehard fan. So I'm not sure what is true. I had no idea that there were so many different possibilities of what that song could be about. If it was, I thought it was just a song. Apparently, it was. She could have been real. She could have been a mix of people, or could have just been letters. Who knows? Well, I'm not sure if we'll ever know the truth about that. But he absolutely loved this song, so much so that while he was thinking about it, he knew that when he first started to feel the music and figure out the music and the lyrics for this song, that it was a hit. And he had it rattling inside his head so much that he was driving down the road with a friend of his, and it was just like in his head. He was thinking about the song, engrossed in it, when this motorcyclist drove up next to him and said, "Hey, your car's on fire." And the bottom of his car, while he was on the freeway, was on fire. So it was his Rolls Royce was on fire. The kid probably saved their life. If the car had exploded, we would have been killed. But I was so absorbed in this tune for Billie Jean floating in my head that I didn't even focus on the awful possibilities until later. He was so focused on that song that he didn't even realize his car was on fire. And that motorcyclist saved his life and his friend's life. It's just, you don't realize any of these things until you read about it and do all this research. So I thought that was really interesting that, first of all those different versions of who the heck Billie Jean could be, but then finding out that he almost had this terrible accident, and that was just crazy. But there's also, I will go back to talking about Michael Jackson again, because he had so many different videos in the 80s. In 1983 alone, he had that, he had Beat It, then PYT, and of course Thriller. So they were all part of the Thriller album, which is insane when you think about it, because when you think about it now, how popular all those songs are, and they were all on one album, which stayed on the charts. I think it's still, I was trying to find like the definitive answer for it, but it was, the Thriller album had spent 37 weeks at number one, or on the Billboard 200 chart for 37 weeks, and that had kept that record for years. Up until 2023, it still was the record. Still held that record for longest, being on the Billboard 200 for the longest period of time, which was 37 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty crazy. But there's also, of course, Madonna. Madonna was, I remember watching her music videos, and I actually went back and watched all of these music videos so I could refresh my memory. But I could definitely see why so many men and women were intrigued by her, especially watching these music videos, because she just had this powerful star power to her. She just had this confidence and vibrancy. She was just so, I don't know how to describe it. It was just, I could definitely, kind of almost like a Marilyn Monroe kind of vibe. She had just this confidence in her that made you wish that you could be her or know her. And her songs were just so catchy. The videos were eye-catching, and they were just iconic, right? Just like the music video for Like a Virgin, it was shot in Venice. It was bold. It was controversial. It helped establish her as a boundary-pushing artist. So, and she absolutely loved to push the boundaries. So it was, like I said, it was filmed in Venice, and it had her dressed in a bridal gown while singing about sexuality and identity. She pushed the boundaries in a way that the music industry had never seen from a female pop artist. And you could tell in these music videos that, if you think about Madonna, and then you think about like Tiffany, and Tiffany singing I Think We're Alone Now in the mall, and then you've got Madonna on this gondola in Italy, or like flirting with this lion in Italy somewhere. There's definitely a big difference between Tiffany and Madonna. So she definitely was pretty controversial at the time. But the music video for that, the video includes Madonna in a wedding dress, singing about independence, mixed with scenes of playful interacting with a lion. And it was an actual real lion. There was no CGI in that. It was a real lion. But there was some controversy, I cannot say that word today, controversy, and fame. Some criticized the video for its bold themes, but Madonna's decision to address the topics of female independence and empowerment made it groundbreaking and helped cement her place as a feminist icon, which, she absolutely was at the time. So I definitely remember her music video for Like a Prayer more than anything. That was one that, let me see, that had huge backlash because it was more of a religious video. And I remember watching it, and my sister said that she doesn't like that song because they overplayed it so much, but I always connect that music video with my sister, because I remember as a kid, it was on MTV playing, and we were making Betty Crocker brownies, and I just remember being excited because I think my other sister was coming into town that night, which I always loved. So I just associate that music video with a good memory of my sister and us baking brownies. She doesn't like the song. She was sick of it, but I associate that with a good memory. But when I was reading and doing the research for it, I did not realize that there was some serious backlash for the video. If you remember, she witnesses a crime, and she witnesses a man being accused of killing this woman, but it was a black man being accused of killing this woman, but it was a group of white men that had actually murdered her. So they had hurt her. The black gentleman ran up to her to try and help her. Madonna's witnessing all of this. Of course, the cops come, and then he's getting pulled away. They accused him of harming her. Then Madonna runs to a church and sees this black man's, like, this saint statue behind this cage, and there's like symbolism. And I understand with music, lyrics, music videos, and this is something that I realized rewatching these music videos. I don't understand symbolism to save my dang life. I am way more literal than I realized. So like, oh, there's this butterfly and it's carrying a bag of bricks, and that means that I want to be independent from my mother. I never in a million years would I associate the two. If you were like, no, Mom, I want to be by myself, and like, I am super, super literal, and I did not realize how much so until I rewatched all of these videos and didn't understand what half of what it was trying to tell us until I did the research and it broke down what the symbolism meant for these videos. I hope I'm not alone in that, and that other people, if you go back and watch some of these videos, you can be like, understand the symbolism. I don't quite know what it means either. That would make me feel a lot better and maybe not as dumb. But with this, there was obviously, she was in a church. There's a choir singing. The saint statue comes to life and walks out. And then she's trying to free him, and there's a knife that she grabs and it cuts her, and it looks like stigmata. She's got the cuts on her hands, which made religious groups upset because they thought it was blasphemous. So she actually had signed a deal with Pepsi before this video came out. And it was a massive sponsorship deal that she had, and featured Like a Prayer in a commercial. But after the video's release, the backlash led Pepsi to end the partnership. The video angered religious groups. The brand didn't want to risk further controversy, but Madonna was still able to keep the $5 million sponsorship fee even after the ad was pulled. So I mean, she still wins. But there was censorship. There were protests. Religious groups, especially the Vatican, condemned the video, and it was banned in some countries. Many church groups boycotted against Madonna and called for protests outside of MTV offices. Yeah, I watched the video the other day. I can kind of understand. She had crosses burning. I get it to a certain extent, especially for back then. But I think with something like that, you kind of need to hear out the person's symbolism, because obviously they were probably like me, taking it literally, but they didn't understand what it truly meant and what she meant by it. So, but despite, or maybe because of that backlash, Like a Prayer became a cultural touchstone and a symbol of pushing creative boundaries. It forced a conversation about freedom of expression, and Madonna defended her artistic choices by saying she wanted to address themes of race, faith, and personal empowerment. So, which that video does, because it shows she's maybe scared because those guys that hurt that woman saw her and she knew that they had seen her and they had committed this crime. So she was a witness to it, but the police had arrested that other man. And so she had to wrestle with what to do because she was scared for herself, but she couldn't let this innocent man take the fall for them. So she, in the end, after the whole church scene with the choir singing and everything, and she seems to have this inner battle, she decides to go to the police and tell them what happened, and then they let the man go. So she took the risk for that innocent man. So, which I thought was, rewatching it now at 39 as opposed to being 8, I understand that. I can see the symbolism and I understand that stuff a little bit. But her imagery was layered with meaning. For example, the burning crosses were interpreted as statements against racism. And her interaction with the saint character brought attention to the themes of justice and compassion. The stained glass windows and Catholic iconography and gospel choir added depth and emotion, giving the video a haunting, soulful quality. So I definitely wouldn't, without that interpretation of her saying that the burning crosses were supposed to be statements against racism, I would have had no idea. When you see somebody burning crosses, you think, I get it, but at the same time, I'm glad that it was explained to me so I can understand it more clear than I originally knew it to be when I was 8. But still, that is one of that, if you've seen the movie Deadpool, they brought back that song. That song has been revived again. and it remains one of the most discussed and dissected music videos of the 80s. Its release was a pivotal moment in pop culture, solidifying Madonna's reputation as an artist willing to tackle social issues. Today, it's celebrated as an early example of the power of music videos to challenge societal norms and inspire conversations around art, faith, and freedom. The song and video encapsulated Madonna's fearless approach to her work and her ability to challenge conventions, which is why it still resonates as an iconic piece of pop history. So I absolutely agree. It's still one of those songs that I always picture the music video. I go back to that time, and now that I understand it a little bit more and I've rewatched it as an adult, I have a little bit more respect for it. And I also, I like the Deadpool Wolverine connection to it now, so that makes me like it even more. And the fact that that Ryan Reynolds had to ask Madonna specifically, he had to go to her and specifically ask her for permission to use the song. And she asked to hear the version that they wanted to use so she could approve it. Is like, just makes me like it even more, because I just picture this big superstar, Ryan Reynolds, being terrified of this icon, Madonna, and basically saying, "Can I have your song, please, for my movie?" And it cracks me up. So it's on my Spotify liked for sure. There's also the music video for Sledgehammer. That one I watched the other day, and that's by Peter Gabriel. And if you haven't seen that one in a long time, or if you don't know which one that is, it's just him this whole time looking at the camera, and all these things are going around him, or he's changing. It's different, like claymation, stop motion, computer generated effects, as much as they had back in the 80s. And it made me a little dizzy. It really did, watching all these, because they're like real jittery, doing all these different motions. But there was like a train, there was all these different images that he was turning into. His hair would be different, his clothes would be different, while he's just staying still the whole time. So for the 80s, that was obviously one of those great visual effects and really groundbreaking music videos, which won him, Peter Gabriel, and the song won multiple MTV Music Video Awards. So back then, it was definitely one of those great classic eye-catching videos. So for me, though, I remembered the video and the different things going around his head, but I didn't realize how much my eyes did not like all the jitteriness rewatching it now. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. I don't know. But it wasn't something that I would watch over and over again. That's for sure. Then there is the classic that everybody loves, the Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. And that music video, I didn't realize he's so funny, because I watched a bunch of different interviews with him, and he didn't know, his 16-year-old daughter had to let him know what being rickrolled was. He had no idea what it was. He did this music video when he was 21. He then, and it blew up. He was able to get other number one hits from this song, which I didn't realize. I thought it was kind of just a one and done thing. I didn't realize that he had other hits because of how popular this song was. But he said he didn't realize how it was going to kind of come back to life after years of him being retired. Then all this rickrolling started, And then he got more popular again because of all the Rickrolling. So he's back doing music again. But I'm pretty sure everybody has been Rickrolled. So you picture him with his turtleneck and his trench coat, and he's just, doing his little white guy dance. But those were his clothes. He didn't have any special wardrobe or anything. He brought clothes in a bag. And all of the clothes that he had in that music video were the ones he brought from home. And there were just dancers there. And he was surprised that he was being filmed when he had these great dancers behind him. He was asking the cameraman, why are you filming me? Film these guys. Like, they're way better than me. There was one guy who's just said, like, hey, I can do a backflip off the wall. And they're like, okay, do that. There was really no organization to this video, but we've all seen at least a snippet of it a million times. So the song itself was released in 1987, but the music video didn't achieve legendary status until the internet age, when it became iconic thanks to the Rickrolling phenomenon, where it tricked. If you happen to not know what Rickrolling is, it was when users were tricked into clicking a hyperlink that redirects them to a video. And this prank went viral in the mid-2000s and became a staple internet meme. So, but the music video itself was shot on a small budget, like many of the 80s music videos. It was filmed on a tight budget, shot in London, and featured multiple random locations, like a restaurant, a church, and a street with a really distinctive red brick building. So there was, and also Rick's iconic dance moves were featured in this. He was not a professionally trained dancer. His quirky dancing in the video, filled with spins, sidesteps, and finger pointing, became as recognizable as the song itself. In fact, these moves are part of what make the video so memorable and are often mimicked by fans. But he had the power of unexpected success. Like I said, he was only 21 when he did this, when the song was recorded, and he didn't anticipate it becoming a massive hit. So it reached number 1 in 25 countries, launching his career and cementing his place in 80s pop culture. So like I said, he had no idea it was going to become this huge phenomenon. And he was only 21. But like I said before, he wore his own clothes, like that trench coat. And I listened to this interview because somebody asked if he still had the trench coat. And he said at the beginning of the whole thing, when he was performing constantly, they had him take his trench coat off during one of these concerts, and he took it off, and it ended up crowd surfing, and he just watched it float away into the abyss. He never got it back. But then performing recently, somebody had a trench coat, and it crowd surfed its way up to him, and he put it on. He said it was a little big and it wasn't the same, but it was a surreal moment to have it kind of like looped back to where he first lost his memorable trench coat, and then it, a different version made its way back to him. I thought that was really funny. But he was initially styled in typical 80s fashion, with the trench coat over the turtleneck, of course, and striped shirt, a look that has been referenced in countless pop culture moments. Then he had, despite its meme status, he really took the lyrics were sincere and heartfelt, so he really took it seriously when he sang the song, and so when he realized what Rickrolled was, he kind of didn't understand it, because the song itself was, and how he sang it was genuine. So it wasn't really a joke to him. But then once he embraced the whole Rickrolling and now he just goes with it because it did bring him back into the spotlight. And he's really grateful for the memories that it brought him and how it brought him into so many different homes over multiple generations. So I loved that because you just see this guy when he pops up on the internet or you hear the song, you're like, ugh, I've been rickrolled. But when you know the whole story, and he's just this cute guy in his 50s now, just like, he's so humble about the whole thing. And it's just, I love that. I love that he is such a, nobody's ever going to forget him or give him up. Because that song is just ingrained in our brains for multiple generations. And then once you hear that story about him and you watch the interviews, and he's just a regular guy and had no idea that any of this was going to happen, but he's just embraced it and he's been really humble about it. So I thought that was really cool. Then there's also, we're getting into the nitty gritty, the big videos that everybody said that they remembered, which were the two, Aha's video for Take On Me, and then Thriller. So for Take On Me, I did not, again, a lot of this stuff we just don't know, right? But it was quite the feat to get this. They had already tried to make this song a hit with a few different versions in other countries, and it didn't actually become a hit until the music video itself aired. Then once they actually tried to do the music video without all that animation, and that didn't hit well either. So it wasn't until they did this music video with the animation that it became a hit. So I'm going to go into some detail about it in case you don't know what it was about. But it was filmed in 1985 at a place called Kim's Cafe, which is on the corner of Wandsworth Road and Pensbury Place in London. And then it was done in a soundstage in London as well. So in this video, which made it unique at the time, is they used a pencil sketch animation mixed with live action, and it's called rotoscoping, in which the live action footage is traced over frame by frame to give the characters realistic movements. Around 3,000 frames were rotoscoped, taking 16 weeks to complete. That is a long time for a music video. Like that is a whole lot of work. The idea of the video was suggested by a Warner Brothers executive. And the fantasy video follows a comic book narrative with a motorcycle sidecar racing in which the hero, the lead singer of Aha, is chased by two opponents, one of whom is played by actor Philip Jackson. Meanwhile, at a cafe, a young woman, played by Bunty Bailey, who was the lead singer's girlfriend at the time, is reading a comic book. As the woman reads along, the waitress brings her coffee and the bill. Then, after winning the race, Harkett, which is the lead singer, winks at the woman from the page, which obviously surprises her. She doesn't expect somebody from a comic to wink at her. He winks at her, his pencil-drawn hand then reaches out of the book, inviting the woman inside. She then appears as a pencil drawing, and the action unfolds. And so, what happens after that, the waitress sees that she's disappeared because she's been pulled into this comic. And so she gets pissed because she thinks that the girl skipped out on the bill and didn't pay. So she takes the comic and crumples it into a ball and throws it in the trash, which then combines the whole comic and mixes everything up. And so there's bad guys in the comic that are trying to chase the lead singer, Harkett. And so him and the girl are running through trying to escape. And then they finally make their way and try to escape. And he's trying to get himself to come to life because there's this mirror and you can see her look real while he still looks like pencil, but he's kind of flashing real. And she makes her way out of the comic and ends up on the floor in this diner, like essentially in the trash can. And then everybody's shocked, obviously. And they take her, or she takes the comic and runs to her apartment. And then you can see the guy appear, and he's going in and out between pencil and real, and he keeps slamming himself against the wall, going pencil, real, and then and she's like freaking out because she wants him to not be hurt by these men that are running in this comic trying to hurt him. And then he finally becomes real, and then they are able to end up being together. So this video will remain in my brain always. I watched it on MTV and VH1's pop-up video a million times. So it's definitely, if you don't remember what it is or what it looks like, there is the official video on YouTube that you can watch for any of these videos. You can watch the official videos on YouTube. So, which I had to do for the research, obviously. But I'm still blown away that it took them 16 weeks to do that rotoscoping. Like, that is absolutely crazy. It's like a movie. But so the memorable moment obviously was when the animated hand reached out and grabbed the real world woman, inviting her into his world. But the cultural impact is it showed that music videos could create a unique visual experience that separate from the song, and influenced a wave of other videos with experimentation with animation. So it kind of opened up the door for everybody else to try different kinds of animation. And there is so many different kinds of animation in a lot of these 80s videos that if you haven't watched any 80s videos in a long time, it might like shock your system to see them, because you're not used to seeing, first of all those like colors, and most of us probably aren't used to seeing music videos anymore anyway, because the days of MTV playing music videos is kind of gone, and VH1, and none of us really watch that stuff. If you see any sort of music video, it's like snippets on Instagram or Facebook, or if you search for it on YouTube. So definitely would recommend rewatching Take On Me or Seeing Sledgehammer. Another really strange one that was recommended I look at when I'm doing the research is David Bowie's Ashes to Ashes. That one was a weird one. I couldn't finish it. Real weird. But if you just want to be immersed in what the 80s music videos were like and want to find a real weird one, probably any of David Bowie's is going to be a weird one for you to watch. But there is one music video that topped everybody's list, except for my husband, because he doesn't think that he's ever seen it. I don't know how. My kids have seen it. My other children have seen it, but my husband hasn't seen this music video. And that is Michael Jackson's Thriller. It is 13 minutes long. It's like a mini movie. And it is an absolute icon, classic, epic music video, even to this day. It's phenomenal. Plus the fact that they had Vincent Price in it doing the voice, and he was an icon back in the day. And the video itself was amazing. Plus they did a making of Thriller when they created it. But the reason why they did the making of Michael Jackson Thriller, which includes the video in full, was to help pay for the video. So that at the time, they were trying to get a budget of $900,000 for this music video, and which was a really large number at the time. And Jackson, like when he had made the Beat It video, he paid the $150,000 to make that video himself. But this was obviously going to be way more. Plus the video was going to be longer. So it was a really big deal. Then obviously nobody was wanting to pay that much because that was a ton of money. So they kind of had to strike a deal. So an executive at Sony freaked out and rejected the $900,000 budget that Jackson proposed for the video and talked him down to $500,000. An expensive video at the time would top out at around $100,000 to kind of give you an idea of how much more this was. But to balance the budget, a behind-the-scenes documentary, like I had just said before, was sold to MTV for $250,000 and then Showtime for $300,000. So that's how they were able to get that paid for. But they were wanting it. Michael Jackson had so many ideas. This man was insanely creative. The video was designed to break the mold of music videos by creating a horror movie style production that matched the song's eerie vibe. At 14 minutes, it was 14 minutes. It was a huge risk at the time, but it paid off massively. So obviously the key scenes, for the love of Pete, if you haven't seen this video, go to YouTube, watch it. It's worth the 14 minutes of your life. You have to see it. I still have to make my husband watch it, but you have to see it. So, the opening scene is where they're on this date and then it transforms into a horror show. It's Michael Jackson and his date, and then it transforms into this horror show where he's like a werewolf, and then she screams, and it flashes to them actually sitting in a movie theater watching this movie, and she gets scared and wants to leave. So he follows her out. They're walking down the street, and then you see zombies coming out of the ground, and he's singing to her. Then there's the zombies surround them, and the whole Thriller dance scene ensues. But what I didn't realize was that the clothes that they had used for this music video, they had gotten from the Salvation Army. Like all the clothes for the zombies were from the Salvation Army, and they were made just for the zombies. Thriller was screened in theaters so it could be eligible for an Oscar. Unfortunately, the Academy Awards, they said that it wasn't eligible. It was still in a music video category and could not be considered for an Oscar, which was kind of a bummer, but it was still the first music video ever inducted into the National Film Registry. It was Michael Jackson was the best selling pop star in the world, but was living with his parents in Encino, California. This is part of the reason why Landis and producers rejected Jackson's offer to pay for the entire video out of his own pocket. He was still living with his parents. Like, he was a successful pop star, and they were like, no, you're not going to give us any more of your money to pay for this video. Like, you need to find your way out of living with your parents, especially if you know anything about Michael Jackson's dad, which, again, we can go into that whole thing in a Michael Jackson dedicated episode. But this video, like I said, was a classic. John Landis was the director and was asked by Michael Jackson if he was interested in doing it, and he would do the video if it could be a short film. And then Michael Jackson really embraced that idea. So the 14-minute film resulted in a music video that changed music video history forever. And it became more of just a cult classic. So Thriller was an event even when it was being shot in October of 1983. Marlon Brando, Fred Astaire, Rock Hudson, and Jackie Kennedy Onassis all turned up on set. And Eddie Murphy, Prince, and Diana Ross were spotted at the private premiere on November 14th. 30 years ago this week, on November 21st, it was first shown to the public. To be eligible for the Oscars, it needed a week-long theatrical release, so Landis arranged for it to open, bizarrely for Disney's Fantasia, at a single cinema in LA. And then at midnight on December 2nd, after weeks of trailers and hype, MTV showed it to the world. The Thriller sealed MTV's reputation as a new cultural force, dissolved racial barriers in the station's treatment of music, though MTV has always denied they existed. You never know. But it revolutionized music video production and spawned the making of genre of documentary, making of the videos. Now, there was a bunch of those after he did the whole making of Thriller. So, which helped people understand what really goes into all of these music videos back then. But he was just, I had no idea that all of this went into that or how big it was. You obviously know that it's Thriller. We hear it. I mean, I hear it on my Spotify list all the time, but you hear it more so on the spooky season around Halloween. But I had no idea that it was that big. So it tops the charts every year around Halloween, which I didn't realize either. So that was a fun fact that can't remember if it was it was in like the 20s or something for Spotify for topping their charts. But even though it didn't get an Oscar nod, Thriller did make history in other ways. In 2009, it became the first music video inducted into the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress, solidifying its place as a groundbreaking work of art. So, this recognition is a rare honor, for sure, and a rare honor for a music video, highlighting its lasting cultural and artistic impact. So for sure, it's one that everybody will remember always. I think that it's, like I said, I've had my kids watch it. They know the song. They love the song. I'm sure that they'll play it for their kids because it's a classic. It's literally everybody's favorite. Everybody that I asked, it was their favorite. Michael Jackson's multiple of his videos were everybody's favorites. I don't think there was a single person that didn't mention his videos when I asked them. So they're classics and I love them. And it just makes you feel good. And I think music is really important for changing your attitude, for lifting you up if you're feeling sad. Songs can really change your attitude, your view on life. It can bring you out of a funk. It can help you when you're sad or grieving. So, and I just love all of these facts about these music videos because you have no idea what goes into these, especially when you're a kid or a teenager or in your early 20s and you're listening to these or watching these music videos. You're just like, wow, these are cool looking. This is new. This is awesome. I want to be like them. I want to dress like them. But you have no idea the true symbolism of what is in these videos, what hard work, what sweat, blood, tears go into all of these music videos, and what these ones especially did for artists down the road and for us now as we're growing older, the memories that they bring to us and how they make us feel and can bring us out of any sort of funk we're in. If you listen to, like, try listening to PYT, Pretty Young Thing by Michael Jackson, and stay in a bad mood. Try it. Or listen to Thriller and see if you're in a bad mood and not want to do this. Try not to do this. Try not to do the Vincent Price voice at the end when you listen to it. It's, music has a huge impact on how we feel, which is what I will talk about in our Therapy Thursday episode this week. But we have talked enough about that stuff. We are now going to get to some Mandela effects before we wrap this up. So one of them, which will always bother me, is still music related. It's Queen's We Are the Champions. So I and other people could swear that the song ends, "We are the champions of the world." But it in fact just says, "We are the champions," and then fades off into the sunset and doesn't say anything else. It says it apparently at one point because we hear it in the song, and it's at the end of Mighty Ducks. You can hear it at the very end, which makes you think that it's the end of the song because of how the end of the movie is and everything and how long the song goes. But when you actually hear the song on Spotify or wherever else, it just ends. And it just sounds so weird for it to just end like that. When you hear it and watching the Mighty Ducks, it sounds perfect. It sounds correct. But otherwise, it just sounds incomplete. So that is a Mandela effect that people are like, "Oh, you're just misremembering." We never know with these things. Are we misremembering? Berenstain Bears, we're not misremembering. That's not something we'll misremember. But another weird one is from Star Wars, the line, "Luke, I am your father." He doesn't say that, and I've never seen a single Star Wars in my life. Don't come at me. But I do know that line because everybody said it a million trillion times. But it's not actually, for those of you who haven't watched it a gajillion times like me, because I haven't seen any of them, it's not "Luke, I am your father." It's just, "No, I am your father." But somehow everybody has always said, "Luke, I am your father." Why? I don't know. It's just like somebody started to say it and it just caught on. Or did it change somehow? I'm not sure. Then there is the one from Snow White, and then I will end this. Do you remember when the evil queen is talking to the mirror? What does she say when she's talking to it? When she says, "Blank, blank on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" Is it mirror, mirror? Or is it magic mirror? Which do you remember? I remember mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? But it's actually mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all? Magic mirror? It's always been mirror, mirror. That's what we all remember. It's never been magic mirror. Again, are we misremembering? I don't know. But another weird one. Let me know if that's one that you remember as well, being different. But we are going to wrap up this episode. Next week, we're going to go into the 90s and see what music videos we can talk about. Then I know there's a lot in there. The variety is huge. So we will return to this 80s series down the road. I hope you guys learned some cool fun facts in this. There was a lot. My brain is completely scrambled from all of it. It's taken me days to do this episode. So it's now 1:15 in the morning. But thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.